Hello, welcome back to Al Talks, episode number 4, where I'll be going into my third stand up set. Now, this unfortunately was the last set that I'd performed because the COVID pandemic hit. So, this set happened on the 27th of February 2020. The last time I got up at the Battle of the Axe was February the 13th of the same year. So this was roughly a week and a half after the set. So I arrive, and the MC for the night was an Australian comic called Damien Clark. Now, Damien is a phenomenal comic, really funny. His jokes are really well thought out. He performs at a variety of venues all around Dublin. Uh, that night that I arrived, he was actually finishing up a set at the International before he was coming down to MC that night at the Battle of the Axe. And he regularly performs at the Laughter Lounge, which is one of Dublin's biggest comedy clubs. I was actually there once, the first time I ever did comedy, that first week when I had. And when was this now? This was the very first. Yeah, August 22nd, 2019. So on the. Yeah, it would have been the 24th that I went to Laughter Lounge. So I get up to again to the room, and none of us knew that this was going to be the last show for a while, because in March the country shut down, went into the first lockdown. So nobody knew, and then it was this really good energy in the room for whatever reason. I can't really place it, but it felt really, really good. So we get up at the table that's at the very back where all the comedians sit, and Damien is just going through who's going up first, second, and all of that. And he turns around to all of us, and he just looks and goes, I just feel this is going to be a great night. It's like a good few of us here. The crowd looks good, and it just looked like a really good night. And it turned out that it really was. Now, I have seen Damien perform before, not as an MC, but just at the open mic, same as one of us would when we go up. And so I knew his style of comedy already. And to have him MC that night made it really special because he put his Australian signature on it, that a lot of Australian comics have. Uh, yeah, the room, like I keep mentioning, it was something really special in the air. Like I was telling, nobody knew that a month later we'd all be shut down, and that we still haven't opened up to date. There's no live performances at the moment. Nearly a year later, so I'll be highly anticipating the return back to comedy, whatever that happens. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe most likely not this summer, but possibly next year. It would have been, uh, if it's next year, it'll most likely be a 2 year hiatus for myself. So that night I had not performed, sorry, prepared new material that I was going to try out untested. Um, Big risk, but if I don't try it, I'll never know. I think I was, yeah, that night I was going up last. So we were watching the other acts perform, and it was a really good night. The crowd was really good. As we're going through, this was after the second break. A lady from an American lady came in, and for the last two acts. Um, so Damien got up after the break to MC, and he's doing a particular bit, and this woman heckles. Now she came in after the second break. This was maybe around roughly, it finishes about 11:30, give or take. So this was maybe, I don't know, 10 to 11 or quarter to 11 when she came in. And then she started heckling Damien's bit. Now, Damien, obviously, he's a professional at this. He knows what to do. He dealt with it. And then there was one more person going up, and then it was my turn. So I get up and start doing my new bits. And the American lady once again heckles me. Now, at this stage, I've dealt with a single heckler before, and it turned out quite well. So that, same old routine. I was actually doing a bit about how cold it is in Siberia, where I'm from originally. And this lady was like, "I don't believe you." And I just, because I'd heard already this stage heckle Damien. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, oh, we'll see where we can take this. And I was like, because she heard me from the US, they don't use Celsius, they use Fahrenheit. And I said back to her, I said, I'm sorry, I said minus 50 degrees, not Fahrenheit. And the crowd erupted into laughter, and and that woman didn't look particularly pleased, but that's what you gotta do with hecklers. So I went through the rest of my bits after that. I think this was this was kind of, that joke was at the very start of my set, because I wanted to just try it out first and see how it went. And I go into the rest of my set. It was there were jokes that are refined from the first set. I think for that stage, that joke that I'd reworked in that set that I bombed, I think I dropped it for this set. Can't exactly remember. So, and then I continue on my set, and I get off, and Damon walks over to me. He's like, "Oh, what was up with that lady? She heckled me, and then you." And it's like, and he congratulated me. It's like, "I really loved when she heckled you, how you dealt with it. That was really funny." I was like, "Well," because it slightly disrupted the show, considering it was the last two acts. Damon was the MC, but he was still up there performing, and ended on a high. Like, walking off that stage, people were still laughing, which was really good. Like, for me, ending that set was probably the best. That set, it was really good, because I had the crowd's attention from the very beginning to the very end, even though I got heckled. But I thought it was quite witty how it dealt with that. Funnily enough, that woman actually left the show immediately after it ended. She didn't stick around at all. I think she got pretty upset. Excuse me. She got pretty upset about how her heckles were dealt with. But it was just strange that she came in for just the last two acts. This normally, it is common after the first break for more people to show up, but it was just kind of strange. So that obviously was my last set. I have not done any sets since the 27th of February 2020. We're now on, like I was saying, we're now on the 1st of, I'm recording this on the 1st of February 2021. So it will nearly be a year at the end of this month. It will be a year at the end of this month that I have done my last set. Going forward, I plan, like I was saying, to get my friend who's in the band Plastic Cowboys to come on and as a guest. I also plan to have another one of my friends who's also a musician. He's very talented to come on and as a guest as well. Now he will my my second friend will be coming on. He will not be talking about comedy. It'll be mainly about music. Um, my other friend, who I plan to, who's in the band Plastic Cowboys, he performed there at the Battle of the Axe as a musician for the open mic, and he's been with me to see comedy up there a couple of times at the stage, and that time I bombed both him and Killian were there to see it as well. So that's one the reasons I want to get him on, um, to get his perspective of from an audience member point of view how that set went. In the meantime, while I'm trying to figure out how to get that going, because obviously it'll most likely be through Zoom or Skype or one of those platforms. But in the meantime, I will be uploading episodes. They won't be talking about my sets, but they will be talking about comedy shows that I enjoy and have watched in the last while. There's been a couple that have been really good, and any specials of any comedians that I've watched that I would recommend to other people for fans of comedy. But yeah, so it was kind of around maybe November I really started thinking about that very last set, how great it ended, and I always keep thinking back to how Damien that night said, "Oh, this is going to be a really good set," and he was 100% right. It was everybody was exceptional that night. The crowd was laughing for every single comic. It was just a really amazing night. I was really glad to be part of it, because at this stage I was trying to get out to Dublin. Like I said, I don't live in Dublin as much as possible, which is why the last set that I did was the 13th, and then this was the 27th. Because before, um, you know, before that set, what was the first was 22nd of August, and this was the February. It was a couple of months later. There was a big break because at this stage, I did that one set. I did good, but I still wasn't kind of sure, and if I wanted to go along. And that set that I did at my friend's open mic, which didn't go to plan, but you win some, you lose some. So I am looking forward to making more of these, especially once I get the two guests on. Beyond that, in terms of guests, I'm not sure who I want to have on at the moment. It would all be dependent on how I can figure out with Zoom and recording and everything else like that. But I'm really looking forward to it. Next couple of episodes, like I was saying, will be, because I've no more sets to talk about, will be just talking about comedy shows and any specials that I've released in the last while that I've enjoyed, the odd say year or so, year and a half. So that's that's it for this episode number 4. Like I said, I will in my next few episodes we'll try and get guests on, and I won't have any more sets to talk about because I've only done the 4. So that's that. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back next Tuesday with a new episode.